everyone. Good to see you. Happy Sabbath. Glad you're here. We have a little recap. So we're going to start with a little recap. For those of you who were here back in June, I had a little message on peace. And I want to talk a little more about peace today. And I'm just going to recap a little bit about what we covered last time, and then we'll show you what kind of we're talking about in part 2. So maybe you remember there was a certain country that we tried to guess that we barely made it at the very nick of time. So I think our last guess, we guessed it or something. I think I had to give you a clue that it began with an E or something like that, but whatever. But the name of that country was El Salvador. Okay, you remember this El Salvador. Now there's a guy here that, you know how politicians are, folks. I mean, we like some things about politicians. We don't like some things about politicians. I mean, you know, it's just, I think what the story is that we could all kind of agree on is there's no perfect politician, okay? Regardless of what party they're from, all those kind of things. But there's one thing about this Nayib Bukele that you might remember, and that was he helped, whether we like the way he did it or not, okay, the amount of people being murdered in El Salvador was like the most dangerous country on the world, okay, at least according to the statistic that they shared. And it became actually the safest country as far as murders per capita per 100,000. It dropped from 102 people per 100,000 to 2. So you can see the difference, 102 to 2, which actually, believe it or not, according to the data, is safer than the country that we live in, the United States. Okay, so this is kind of what he mentioned, you might remember. It says you cannot do anything unless you have peace. You need to have peace. You have to start with peace. In other words, what he's saying is that country that doesn't have peace is in a big turmoil. And we see it all around us. We see countries all around us. We're a bit in a bit turmoil. You can tell peace is a little bit elusive for some of us nowadays, right? You know, my family, well, my wife has a history of living in a country called Venezuela. She grew up in Venezuela for a number of years, went to high school in Venezuela. Well, if you're paying attention to the media, you know Venezuela is in a world of hurt, right? And there's a number of countries that are. But the thing is that peace is important. And I would like to suggest to you that peace for a Christian, if you can't have peace, I'm not sure ultimately in the long run how much you're really relying on Christ. Okay? Even in very difficult situations. Now, don't get the wrong impression. I'm not saying you won't have concern. I'm not saying you won't necessarily run into depression from time to time. I'm not saying you won't have anxiety from time to time. But these are little scorecards that should be going off in our brain that when we're feeling this way, we probably need to recognize somehow we're far away from Christ. We've moved from Christ. You know, perfect love casts out what? Fear. Okay? So if you're feeling fear, you may realize that possibly part of the combination is that there's that perfect love piece missing. And perfect is not always, 100% of the time achievable in a lot of ways, okay? We're going to talk about somebody today that I think maybe we can kind of get into. So, if you are going to keep peace, remember last time we talked about it, you need to what? Maintain it. You have to maintain it. It's not like a once peace, always peace, right? It's like you need to work at maintaining peace because peace is going to elude you. It's going to disappear. And it's like somehow you need to bring it back and maintain it. So we'll talk a little more about that today. All right. So remember the word peace. We like to, just looking at the word peace is almost in a way peaceful, isn't it? It's not like anger or trouble. It's peace. It just has a nice flow to it. And remember last time we maybe mentioned 429 times in 400 verses in the Bible, the word peace is mentioned. All right, so here we go. Going to get into the new stuff now. Well, no, we got a couple more slides here. But does anybody remember what this acronym stood for? PMP. Anybody remember what PMP stood for? I'm sorry? Philippines something? Were you saying something about the Philippines?
Prime Minister of the Philippines.
Oh, Prime Minister of the Philippines. That's Joel, that's a very good guess. It's a very good guess, and it's just a little off. Just a little, okay? Anybody remember what PMP stands for? Preventive Maintenance Plan? Yeah. What was it? Go ahead. Peace Maintenance Plan. Peace Maintenance Plan, right? Here it is, right here. Peace Maintenance Plan. PMP, Peace Maintenance Plans. And I wanted to share with you again that one of the parts of my Peace Maintenance Plan is that I have an alarm on my phone that goes off at 1:15 every day, and it still does. And I say this prayer. Now, I don't necessarily exactly do it always at 1:15, but it's right around that area. Take me, O Lord, it's wholly thine. I lay all my plans at your feet. Use me today in your service. Abide with me, and let all my work be wrought in thee. Now, I also move through this process. I don't necessarily always cover each one of these, but it's kind of important. I ask myself, how's your peace, Ricky? Right then. How are you feeling? What's it taking? Who are you trusting in? Are you open to my leading? Will you seek me, or will you go alone? Are you okay if things don't go the way you want? And I mean, this is kind of some heart-searching stuff. I mean, it's just kind of like I'm trying to keep an inventory on where am I? Because I'm telling you, you can just be drifting off here in la-la land somewhere, and it's like your mind's going, and you're working on stuff, and you're chewing on things, and it's like just, bring it back. Help bring it back. Lord, help me bring back. All right, so we're going to move now into our Peace Maintenance Plan, Part 2. Okay, that was kind of Part 1. Now, I'm talking to you about Peace Maintenance Plan that I kind of use, all right? Whether you choose to want to do this or not, that will be left up to you. But I'm just kind of telling you personal stuff. So here's my number 2, okay? Well, actually, we got to start with something else. You know it's me, so I want you to share an example of a skill, a sport, or a hobby that you have learned over time. Okay, what is it, and how long did it take you to learn to do it reasonably well? We're not after perfection here. We're just after. So I'll share with you one of my things. Okay, for me, when I was a second grader, I joined the beginners band. And I didn't know for sure what I wanted to play, but the guy who was the director of the band needed a tuba player. Well, you can imagine how big a second grader is and how big a tuba is, all right? Now, this wasn't an upright tuba. This was like a sousaphone, the kind they use in marching bands and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'd hide by. But I started learning to play the tuba. And 3 years later, when I was in 5th grade, I had practiced, and I qualified to join the junior band. So I was the tuba player in the junior band. And I played the tuba through high school. I played the tuba through college. I even played it in a couple different brass groups up until about 30 years old. And then I really haven't played the tuba since. But I haven't probably totally forgot how to play the tuba. In fact, when I was in college, I played the tuba with another guy in this very congregation who played the trombone. Does anybody here know anybody who plays a trombone in this organ? Huh? Brian Shockey, that's right. Brian Shockey and I were in a brass group that he played the trombone and I was the tuba player. So anyway, it's good to see you, Brian. All right, but it wasn't a skill that I learned overnight. It really took me 3 years to just get the basics well. You got with me? Okay, so what I'd like you to do is ideally, I'd like you to talk to someone you're not related to. That means it may mean that you have to get up and move across the aisle or turn around and talk to somebody behind you or in front of you or something of this nature. But think of a skill, a sport, or a hobby that you have learned over time. Tell the person what it is and how long did it take you to learn to do it reasonably well. All right? Would you do that? 2 minutes. Take 2 minutes and find somebody and do that for me. Okay, thank you for sharing. If you'd like to continue your conversation, I would invite you to do so right after the service. But thank you for doing that. Now, I'd like to know if you think that someone told you about a skill that would be what we would classify as the most unusual skill that anybody mentioned in the entire congregation today, that you go like, okay, right? If you're like, okay, I'd like to hear what that was. Anybody? Anybody hear any type of skill that was like, wow, that's an interesting skill. That person, learned how to ride buffalo in Wyoming or something of that nature. Or, anybody? Nothing? Everybody's pretty much just playing an instrument or, okay. All right, fair enough. We'll move forward. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about in part 2 of our Peace Maintenance Plan, PMP. Success is what we're going to talk about. And more importantly, how we view success. I think this is really important, and I've thought about this quite a bit, and I continue to think about it. You may have seen this before, but I'm going to show it to you again. So this is what people think it looks like, success, okay? Oh, that person's successful. That's a successful person. They've just rocketed up and, those types of things. When it's not you, when you're looking at someone else, you oftentimes think that's what happens. That it just like, well, that person's just successful. That's just how they are, right? But I believe the way we view success is very critical. And here's, what many people think. It's just up, up, and to the right, right? But here's what happens, I think, with this view of success. This is what this view of success can lead to, okay? It can lead to stress, pain, sleepless nights, worry, confusion, depression, anxiety, bitterness, and the list goes on, okay? If you think that this is how you should be at something that you are successful at. We learn, though, and I hope what I can help demonstrate for you today, is that we learn what success really looks like. Okay? Because when we get a good, healthy, proper perspective of what stress really, really, truly looks like, then it has a whole different way of how we even define success. You with me? You kind of tracking here? This is very important. Instead of living with bitterness and disappointment when we don't, quote, succeed, we instead view failure, or what we maybe think of as failure, as just a hurdle or an obstacle, or possibly a learning experience that God can help us to help mold us and prepare us. It's a very different way of thinking about it, really, when you think about it, right? Now, the Bible is don't you love this picture? The Bible is jam-packed with people whose life experience of success is as winding as this mountainous road is. This is how many people in the Bible, this is what success looks. It's up and down and all around. And that's where I think we need to be sensitive in our own personal walk and the other personal walk of other people in our lives about what success looks like. So, we're going to play 20 questions, okay? You guys know how we've done on this before, right? I'm guaranteeing we're getting this one today. We are going to get this one today. So we have 20 questions, and the reason why we're going to get this is because I'm going to have Jenica and Cannon be the ones that play this game, okay? Jenica and Cannon are actually in the junior class. And we played 20 questions in the junior class. And they're good at it. Okay? And I just want to let you know that they're going to get it, even though, well, I've kind of sort of indirectly told them, but I shouldn't have said that maybe, but I didn't tell them, but I mean, now that I think about it, they probably already know who I'm talking about. But who is the Bible character I'm thinking about? And if you would, can we get a mic over here? Can somebody bring a mic over to them? Or can I just give them this one? Okay, here, Jose. All right. Now, just play like you don't know, okay? Because I don't want you to just guess the name right away. Tell me how you would decipher how we would go about guessing this person.
Is this person from the Old Testament?
Ah, beautiful question. Is that a beautiful question? Yes. And you get to keep going because you got a yes.
Does this person have a brother?
Yes.
Is this person deliver the Israelites out of Egypt?
No. He did not deliver Israelites out of Egypt. Hand it to your sister. Okay, go ahead, Jenica. It was a good guess, though.
Is this a male or a female?
Oh, no, it has to be yes or no question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a male?
Yes, it is. She said, is it a male? Yes. Okay, you don't have to be so evasive. You can go ahead and just guess if you want to.
Is it a king?
No, it's not a king. No, it's not a king. Okay, Cannon, you're back up. It's a male in the Old Testament with brothers, but it's not Moses.
Did he kill anybody?
Not that I'm aware of. So I say no. Back to your sister. No. Go ahead.
Is he the oldest of all the brothers?
No. Go ahead, Cannon.
Is he the youngest?
No. Go ahead, Jenica.
Is he the favorite?
Yes.
Did
Oh,
he get a colorful coat?
he does have a colorful coat. You can say his name if you want
Joseph.
to. Joseph. Okay, very good. Joseph. All right. Excellent. So we're going to talk about Joseph. In fact, I've solicited, we talked about Joseph in juniors about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and at the time, Jenica and Cannon were the only ones in the class, so I've asked them to help me today by reading a couple verses. So you want to bring the mic up? You want to read from there, or do you want to come up?
We'll go up.
Okay. Cannon, come on up. I'll give you this one. Do you have a Bible with you or something, or a phone? Or
Phone.
Okay. All right, I want you to look up Genesis 37:3, okay? Jenica, you can go first if you'd like. I'm going to turn this one on too, okay? Easton, thank you. Okay, Genesis 37:3. Just keep it in that chapter because most of what we're reading is in that chapter. Okay,
Now, do I read it?
go ahead.
Okay. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age. Also, he made him a tunic of many colors.
Okay, so what do we know from that text? He was his favorite son, and he made him a special coat, right? So far, it's looking pretty good. I mean, I'm Dad's favorite, and I got the special coat. Everything's looking pretty peachy. Okay, next one, 37:6 and 7. Cannon, can you read that? Genesis 37:6 and 7.
So he said to them, "Please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright, and indeed your sheaf stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf."
Okay, So, he's his dad's favorite. He has a beautiful coat, and he's a wonderful dreamer. And he dreams about things that are elevating him to be the center, and that his brothers are all bowing down to worship him. Okay, so far, so good. All right, let's move to the next one, Jenica. Genesis 37, 18 through 24. Sorry about that. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. So far, the success graph for Joseph was tracking in a very perfect line here. I just wanted to help bring that. Okay, go ahead. 37, 18. Wait a second. Did I have you read 37:9? I think you need to do 37. Huh?
Yeah.
No, I had you read 37:3, didn't I?
Yes.
He did 6 and 7. 37:9. I got ahead of myself one. Can you read 37:9, please?
Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me."
Okay, so he told that to his brothers, but he also told this dream to his dad, because it actually, in the dream, it depicts that his parents actually bow down and worship him as well. Okay, so Joseph is actually in a pretty good situation here. Things are looking really encouraging. Let's go ahead and move down to Genesis 37, Canon, if you'll read this one. Genesis 37, 18 through 24.
Now when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Then they said to one another, "Look, this dreamer is coming. Come, therefore let us kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams." But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, "Let us not kill him." And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, but cast him into a pit which the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might be delivered out of their hand, and bring him back to his father." So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him, and then they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, and there was no water in it.
Okay. All right, so I don't know if this is the first time Joseph ran into trouble in his life. Perhaps, I don't know. But disaster struck. Not only was he not heading vertical anymore, right? But he was down in a pit. So let's see what happens next. Genesis 37, 25, and 27. This will be our last text for you guys to read.
And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh." And his brothers listened.
Okay, very good. Thank you guys for helping. Appreciate that. So, things went from, in a way, maybe, I don't know if bad to worse is the right word, but I guess they could have killed him, but they didn't. They decided to sell him. And Joseph's world was turned upside down. I know when we were in class the other day, we were talking about this. I don't know how many of us will ever experience this exact sort of thing, but I know that probably many of us in here have had something that's happened to us that's caused our world to be turned upside down. It might not be that you were put in a pit and your brother sold you, and now you're heading to this foreign land, and you're thinking, will I ever see my dad again? Will I ever go home again? I mean, all the thoughts that may be going through his mind. But, you know, when your world's turned upside down, regardless of how it's happened, it's turned upside down, right? So the thought is that this is what all of a sudden, over the next 22 years, Joseph's success is like a crazy roller coaster ride at Six Flags Over Texas. Highs and lows, but through it all, day by day, he remains faithful, and God blesses him in unique ways, right? We come to find out that not only does he have had dreams, but he actually then interprets a dream. And so I want to think about, what if? What if Joseph had decided to not stay faithful to God? What if he was not faithful to Potiphar? What if he had not been faithful to the jailer? What if he had betrayed Pharaoh? What if he had not forgiven his brothers? What if Joseph had lost faith because he viewed setbacks as failure instead of a journey to success? You see the difference? If he views this setback as a total failure, why am I here? I give up on the whole thing. But no, he doesn't. He doesn't give up on the whole thing. In fact, his key to peace, is it possible that Joseph learned that a key to having peace, a peace that passes understanding, is to realize that success isn't what people think it looks like? And that you and I, just like Joseph, can have more peace in our lives when we understand what success really looks like. Just a few minutes ago, you shared with someone here in the congregation a skill or a sport or a hobby that you had learned. Yes? It took a while to become reasonably good at it, I imagine, for most of you. But here's the thing. You didn't give up. Because if you gave up, you wouldn't have that skill. You wouldn't be able to do that sport. You wouldn't have that hobby. It wouldn't be part of you. But you persevered. You didn't give up. You realized that part of the learning curve would be setbacks along the way. It may be that you're in a band and you come in at the wrong time and everybody else is on a hold note or on a rest note, and you're the only one playing, right? So, forget this. I'm walking away. I'm not doing that anymore. No, right? You could think of it like that, but why not think of it like, yeah, I need to improve here a little bit, don't I? I want to be better at this. I want to give more time and issues to this. Here on earth, setbacks, obstacles, complications are part of our journey to a better life and a better place. That when storms of life hit us, and they will, that our confidence is not in our ability, but in the day-by-day faithfulness we have in God. After Joseph's father, Jacob, died, later in the book of Genesis, his brothers were afraid, right? You remember the story? They were afraid. They were afraid because they thought, well, now that Dad's gone, how's Joseph going to treat us now, right? But this is what Joseph shares with them in Genesis 50, chapter 50, verse 20. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring about this present result. I was actually just this last week listening to a sermon from a guy by the name of Max Lucado. Some of you may have heard of Max Lucado. He's an author, religious author. And he referenced this text, and I thought what he said was just really, really thought-provoking and important. So I thought I would share it with you. He said, but God, Remember the text says, but God. You meant for evil, but God. But God. But God, he says, take God out of the story, and evil stays evil. Keep God in the story, and evil turns good. I just thought, wow, that's pretty powerful, deep think. Ultimately, it's all about God. It's all about where we are in our connection with God. As I finish up, I wanted to share with you a little story about a guy named Yogi Berra. Anybody here ever heard of Yogi Berra? Okay, he played catcher for the New York Yankees for 14 years between 1948 to 1962. And if you know anything about Yogi Berra, I mean, apparently he was quite a good catcher. He was a great catcher, has many championship rings, all this kind of stuff. But Yogi Berra has also this kind of had this little quirkiness where he had these little sayings that just kind of make you think twice. I'm going to share a couple with you, and then I'll put the last one up on the board. Here's one of his sayings. It says, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. How about this one? You better cut the pizza in 4 pieces because I'm not hungry enough to eat 6. Always go to other people's funeral, otherwise they won't come to yours. It's that kind of humor, right? Well, here's one that I thought kind of fit for today. Predictions are hard, especially about the future. Right? I mean, think about it, guys. None of us here today know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. We just don't know, right? But predictions are hard, especially about the future. When Joseph was a young man, when he was the pride of his father's life, the one with the special coat of many colors, the dreamer, is there any way at that time in his life he could have predicted what the future would have held for him? But to a great extent, Joseph's future played out the way it did because I believe a big part of it was because how he learned to view success. That ultimately God is on the throne and all things work out for good to those who love the Lord. When we learn the right view of success, it can help us have peace. Instead of living with bitterness and disappointment when we don't succeed, we instead view failure as a hurdle or an obstacle, a learning experience that God can use to help mold us and prepare us. So, I encourage you to consider maybe thinking about success a little differently. Let's please close with prayer. Lord, we are just grateful that you are with us day by day, that you're there to help us through this life and to help reach the promised land. And we thank you for that. Go with us on this Sabbath. Bless our time, and thank you for allowing us to be here today. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.